based on his previous statements, he had passed the test. But it was still unclear what this had to do with faith. Then Halen explained that the test of faith is a way of recognizing oneself. It was all very strange and complicated. Sometimes people didn't even fully understand what they mean. Most of the time, they are not even going to figure it out. They just don't care. And the purpose of this test was to come face to face with the world of their own subconscious and the images from there. He wanted to overcome his miserable past and become stronger. He wanted to become a hero for himself without losing his humanity. That's what Halen read in his subconscious world. Having desires and ideas is one of them. It's much harder to stay true when you're almost blind. He managed to find his way out of his own world. He hardly needed eyes for that. All Halen could do was be a vision. He did the first adventure. A short time later, the door opened wide and led into the memory. Sung Yoon reached the seventh gate. He remembered James' words, although he didn't recall them. In the end, he wouldn't even have time to think about whether to enter the door of the seventh gate. But the fact that no one had ever managed to reach this gate really pleased him. It means that he'd be able to become a pioneer here, too. It seems that he was in a situation where he was facing something extremely difficult and seemingly invincible. His body was petrified and simply could not move. The muscles disobeyed him, refusing to do anything to survive. But then an eye just appeared in front of him. Sung Yoon couldn't believe that it was actually a beast. It made him angry and irritated, and he felt incredibly. Perhaps it was his subconscious that was affected by the ordeal, but he was completely overwhelmed. Taking his weapons, he ran it over his wrist. It was as if he lived to pass all trials that had fallen on his shoulders. Perhaps this place was built on such a Of course, Sung Yoon didn't know if he would be able to cut or even touch that guy. But since he had already come all the way here, he couldn't just give up. Even if there was an incredibly small chance that he would get even an inch closer to the enemy, he would do anything to achieve it. The blow would be struck. For his part, he would do absolutely everything in his power. Of course, he had his doubts, and he could not be sure that everything would go according to plan. But if he managed to move forward, he would do everything to reach his goal. While he was determined to pass through the gate, he was informed that the god of testing remembered the existence of Han Xiong Yoon. This was indeed something new. He was astonished by this news. So now the god of testing had officially announced the start of the seventh gate test. He already knew that this would be the most difficult stage of trials, and he did not have chicken passion. It was surprising to know that the so-called god of testing was not something abstract, but a real being. Perhaps of all the gates, this one was the most surprising. At that moment, the mirror appeared right in front of his eyes. The boy looked at him. At that moment, he did not know what to think. It was also strange that it was hard to believe the reality. But now he needed to establish a connection with himself in the future.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper
A moment later, he saw a guy kneeling on the ground in
back with a
despair.
bite.
It was the same
Try it with the original or
He even had
spicy
tears on his face.
filet,
He
now
recalled
for
the
a limited time.
Seung Yoon knew now the goal was set. He saw so many different pictures, but no one saw it. The next thing he knew, he was in South Korea at Christmas time, flying forward. He noticed himself from the future he had seen a few seconds ago. But everything that was happening looked incredibly strange. He did not know what was happening. Sung Yoon watched himself in the future with some horror, not understanding what he was going to do, although his expression showed that he already knew. His chest was tearing as if the skin was being ripped alive from his flesh. This whirlwind and mixed emotions was keeping him busy. And while he was watching himself, he didn't notice the same priest from the first gate creep up behind him. He touched him lightly on the shoulder, asking him a single question about his mirror. During the test of mentality, where mental defense is especially important, the power of your unyielding subconscious mind is blocked. If Sung Yoon had known about this at the beginning, he would have crossed the line immediately. Watching himself, he realized that he was doing something incredibly challenging. His truth was excessive power and wanted to prove that he was convinced that he would never get that far. Right now, Smash changed very quickly. He's already in the without the same. Then the image disappeared. The young man moved to a completely different place. It looked like the realm of Moon. The guy who was standing in the middle of the kingdom ordered the head of the Moorian Union to be brought to him. In that case, he promised to at least save the lives of those who are here in the non-different factions. He had already heard that a madman had recently appeared before him. He was also called the Ghost of the Sword. Seeing him in reality, one could say that he was truly worthy of the man. Li Jinghwan immediately appeared right before him. He turned his head of his kingdom to read something. He immediately asked him. When he looked around, he saw what this guy had done. He was speechless. Everything was covered with corpses. The young man had killed absolutely all the members of the group, even though he had just said he would not do so. He should have been easily mistaken. But then the guy said that all these people were just unfortunate combat resources that he could profit from. These people were not capable of anything else. They had no value to him. Jinghwan sincerely cursed his killer. He had killed absolutely everyone close to him. The head of the Moorian begged him to stop. He said that you can do whatever you want with him, but don't move all the other subjects as he promised. But Sung Yoon didn't care about all these words. The boy did not stop on the Moorian movers and moved on. He had already conquered many places, but now he appeared in his forgotten town, where people hold no killer religion. If the level of assimilation continues to grow so rapidly, sooner or later it will come to this result. The boy realized what this feeling was only now. It was truly satisfying. Sung Hoon could not let it all go down the drain. He intervened in the fight to stop this monster, even though he had hoped it wouldn't come to that. He knew that such a person should be punished, because Sung Yoon had already destroyed many innocent lives. Yesterday, I didn't understand why he was acting outside. It seemed like he was a completely different person, a different principle, views on life. She had heard that he wanted to raise his level even higher, but she did not believe that he was capable of creating such a her face was already changed, and she could bear to see the face of the warrior, but he hurt by his weapon as he had taken light on him. There was real madness inside of his voice as well. He was saying that all of these people were just operating to help him increase his own strength. Seung Hoon was ready to find a solution, no matter how much he didn't want it. But he saw how much of a threat this guy was to the world, so he wanted to use his lightning to stop it once and for all. He was really angry at Han Sung Yoon's actions, so he told him that he should be careful with this weapon, because there was no telling what might happen. His anger was really incredibly strong. He didn't recognize the guy he had known 50 years ago. Now Shi Kyung just wanted to get rid of it. The young man agreed that this opponent was really strong, and that he had to reckon with it. Or more accurately, he had to do so when he was Han Sung Yoon. Indeed, one more wrong move and this enemy would completely absorb him. And then he would become like that. Now it felt as if even assimilation could consume his subconscious, and before it was too late, he had to find a way out. He couldn't take it anymore. The psychological shock was too much. Sung Yoon sincerely did not believe that this would ever be true, but now he couldn't tell it hurt or felt it. Luckily, it was over. The mental check was finally complete. He stood in front of the mirror only to stop seeing his nightmare, and at that moment, it was as if his strength returned. However, only now did Sung Yoon realize that he had been standing there all this time, not even moving. It was only after that the nightmare started happening again. It seemed to be a force of summons, although he did not know what had happened to his words when he had already seen with his own eyes. Once again, everything changed dramatically. The hunter did not recognize the real world and seemed to be lost in these dimensions. Now Sung Yoon found himself in the middle of shallow water, with the blue sky reflecting. That was all there was in this world, with the sun shining bright and white clouds floating. But then he saw an entity approaching him, and began to say that he saw and felt divine power. This entity was the god of verification. The guy kept looking at the salmon, but then the deity said that he didn't have his real eyes. In any case, he could see nothing but some vague features. But now that they had met in person, the god of inspection was sure that this guy was really professional. He even called him a pseudo-being created to test out himself. But in reality, the boy had no idea what he was talking about, or what he meant by that term. Then the young man said that he was just out, not even in the ministry. He was just climbing up the tower and going floor by floor. At that time, the god of inspection said that this pseudo-deity was indeed different from the others. Han Xiaoyun possessed his own divine power. With each word of his history, he was only more surprised. He couldn't even believe that this was really happening. The god of testing had not looked into the tower of trials, realizing that there were no worthy candidates among those who applied. But it turns out that many interesting things happened. You also added that it's impossible to create something real with the power of the pseudo-deity, but this guy managed to create a real thing. Right after that, it became clear that this player was not a simple person. In fact, now it sounded like he had done something incredibly big and important. But in the end, he just happened to get this divine power after killing Caleb. At that time, the young man decided to ask how significant this divine power was, because he did not realize its scale. And the man explained it to him. It turned out that the tower of trials holds out hope for the afterlife. Seeing the anger of the tower itself, we can safely say that this information is scripture within himself. When the guy realized that the god had passed without him, he immediately panicked and said that he still had a lot of questions. His biggest concern was that he would become such a monster in the future. He just didn't want to let that happen again. He also did not know what kind of deity he was, or what he meant by all that. All these thoughts haunted his mind and never left his mind. He had so many questions, but no one answered. Han Xiaoyun turned to the god of passes one last time, and asked if they could talk a little longer. He really had a lot of important questions. The deity only replied that if he managed to get to the temple of verification in Ares in the future, he might be able to shed some light on his questions. For the moment, that was all. But once he came down to him, gave him very valuable information. It was even more than anything he had known about himself before. Then the god of verification added that even if his actions were unconscious, the fact that he had obtained the divine power of Chiron for himself was not an accident. He felt that there was a cause and effect relationship. That is, through the will of the tower itself, this divine power passed into his hands. Perhaps this is what this causality is about. In addition, the deity said that the Tower of Trials had high hopes for an ordinary applicant, and the fact that he signed the contracts with the administrators of the Apostolic Covenant, the fact that the divine power was obtained from the spirit of Chiron, perhaps it really all happened by the will of the Tower. But Sung Yoon still didn't understand why he was chosen, what the Tower's next intentions were, what would happen next, and what exactly was driving him. He didn't understand anything at all, and it was incredibly disturbing because he didn't even know what to expect next. Later, the guy returned to the awakening, but all that he had recently experienced did not let it go. There was only one fact that could comfort him. Even if all these gods are belligerent, they can't touch him even if they want to, while the challengers under the protection of the tower itself. The situation is simply dire. He could not even trust anyone here because there could be some kind of setup in it. Without wasting any more time, the boy decided to go to the world of Steel Blood to talk to the Lord of Steel Blood. She greeted him almost immediately with words of hope, but he's not so bad. She could tell that she was cool, but no words came to his mouth. He abruptly took the sword in his hand and swore. Now he really did look like a madman, and he was sure that all these administrators had entered into an agreement with the tower itself and were skillfully using it for their own purposes. She could say that she expected his behavior. It was a side effect of the mentality that should have dissipated over time. But right now it was really scary because he was serious about killing her, and now he was even going through it. She was getting a little annoyed, so she tried to talk him down, where he stopped swinging the sword and came to his senses because he was out. However, he didn't hear a word at all. His mind was filled with questions that he had no answers to. He didn't know how they were connected, or if there were any other reasons besides his deep desire for him tied to the contract. All Sung Yoon could think of now was that the administrators were exploiting the applicants by not telling them all the details of the contract. Realizing that there was no way out, she also took the arms, but still tried to talk to him. The girl wanted to convey him the fact that everything he had just said was completely absurd. The administrator was still trying to gain control of him, although it seems that all these attempts were in vain. After all she had said, he sounded even more like a psychopath. Sung Yoon had only talked about how they were all he was just an object, a resource, but now he was incredibly important, especially when she kept telling him to come in. He said that his mind was clearer now than ever before, that he was perfectly fine, because he was sure that the problem was with other people, not with him. He must have been about to put all his strength into a punch. If that had happened, what she had feared had happened. This guy was really possessed, and with one punch he had demolished her house. At that moment, she didn't even have any words. But after a few seconds of shock, she got very angry and told him that he would have to answer for this, and it would be oh so hard. When he looked around and started to walk away, the girl was almost instantly behind him, putting her hand on his shoulder and stopping him. Sung Yoon remained silent for a while longer, but then let out a sigh of relief. He apologized, and then silence settled. But a moment later, he was screaming and begging for the ropes to be untied, and then added that it would not happen again. Of course, she already knew that it was time to untie Sung Yoon and let him go, but she didn't want to rush into it either. She was afraid that after his next visit to this world, there would be nothing left of the house. The remnants of the boy in the form of his future self, which the young man had witnessed during the next test, had not been completely destroyed and were firmly entrenched in his personality. And even if that entity was severely distorted, it is still his future ego. In other words, the suspicions about the administrator's relationship may have been partially true. She wanted to say all this to clarify the situation. The girl said that no one can read the intentions of the test tower. This fact remains unchanged even if you are an administrator, but the fact that the tower expects something from him also remains unchanged. And the Lord of Steel Blood even partially confirmed this. But as far as she knew, the tower had never revealed its intentions to the applicant. It had always remained a secret. That's why it seems even more insane that the tower would make special requests of any one applicant. But since he already had such thoughts, it means that he heard this information from someone. Then Sung Yoon told him that he had seen with his own eyes the god Check who had told him that the tower of testing had certain plans for him. Now it was clear where he had all these doubts about the administrators. And as she said before, the administrators are also ordinary wards of the tower. As expected, he would not be able to learn more about the Tower of Trial itself from her, because she herself knew very little. The girl smiled and was glad that he liked the tea. The drink was based on the urine of a black dragon, so it was ready to treat him to this tea for as long as it rained. At that time, Sung Yoon remembered another thing the god of verification had said. You said that when an administrator contracts with the test tower, they become quasi-deities. As for the status of the pseudo-deity, she wouldn't be able to answer that question right now. But since the sentence was about him, whether he wanted to or not, he would still find out more about it in the near future. Then Sung Yoon had only one last question for her that bothered him just as much. He remembered that long-held wish that all the administrators wished to be fulfilled. Administrator White Grave Sword had said that this wish was a right granted by the Tower of Trials itself to the administrator. She also said that the fulfillment of this wish could be achieved through the candidate with whom the apostolic contract could be signed. If she had already spoken about it, it means that she had told him about this old wish. All this is true, but he wondered why she, who was the first administrator invited him to the place, did not tell him about all these nuances in it. Then the girl said that it was all because of the feeling of fear. She did not go into details and spoke very little. The Lord of Steel Blood said that he had been underestimating himself too much until now, and it all resulted in an excessive obsession with his own growth. Then she thought that she could get him to challenge him in the test, and he would agree to it, knowing that he would gain the lock. This test was closely related to his eye, and she hoped that Sung Yoon would fly there without having a butterfly's eye on the top. It was worth recognizing that there was no other way than to approach him. After he said that, he realized that he was a miserable creature who was incapable of doing it. Of course, she didn't know exactly what he meant by giftedness, but she was sure that soon he would realize his own worth and realize his full potential. She also added that the test on the tower floor would be one of the most difficult. It was a struggle with herself. There were some qualities that a deity is born with and cannot be changed. In the world of hunters, these qualities are divided into three types: gaining skill, increasing wealth, and awakening a unique characteristic. These three qualities could be called the main qualities of every hunter. Perhaps he is destined to be born with at least one of these qualities. There was no way he could acquire skills. His fortune did not increase. His unique characteristics did not appear. The Lord of Steel Blood was definitely wrong. At least he was sure of that, because she had said that Song Yu had talent, but he hadn't noticed it himself. Back in the waiting room, all these questions kept running through his mind. Perhaps if he had something like that, he would have been known in the world as one of the best hunters even without any talent. But Sung Yun kept remembering her words that he would soon realize was true. He wasn't sure where she was going with this, but she sounded so confident that he had left and left out. Now he had to move forward, and behind the next door was another difficult test, where he would have to win a duel with his own throne, created by the tower itself. There was probably no point in sitting and thinking about it. Most likely, this test was created to look at himself from the outside, and he wanted to take it as an opportunity to improve his own fighting skills. After the incident with Nam Dong-gu, the young man received a reward from the Japanese Association. It was a potion that improved his skills. Catherine had given him some of hers, so he now had 3 bottles of it in his inventory. He took one of them to drink right now, and then he thought about the skill he had recently acquired. He had learned this skill during the hunt for the wolves. He was now able to control Nara, and now Sun Yu wanted to invest in it to be the leader and foundation for future opportunities. Now the old vampire house Tuxedo was weak. He entered the door of the ghost, where he had to kill the other cell created by the god of darkness. The Lord of Steel Blood told him about his own. She said that the clone's ability would be as close to his own as possible, and that his experience would also be possible. In other words, the clone would know absolutely all the strategies he uses. Also, the clone challenger will copy all the talents of the original, and if you underestimate your own talents, you will see it. So the fight with the clone began. Now he's curious to see how different he is, because now he can see all the abilities and challenges of own. Now he's not distracted by anything else. Lately he had been encountering these beings called deities too often. He's a bit unsettled, but now he's on suit. He's called a clone too. He's copying something like clone. On the recommendation of the Lord of Steel Blood, Sung Yu spent time with his past, but very glad then found out that enjoying this today. The vampire found
Take a bite of tropical peanut butter minis for
if in fact it was an exact copy of himself, this test was an ideal opportunity for the object to evaluate his own capability. In fact, he had a feeling that time had slowed down around him, and like peanut butter minis. The boy decided to attack the moment his clone picked up a sword of steel blood. Well, the choice was obvious. The concentration was lying in his left hand, just like that. A split second later, a counterattack shield appeared in his hand. The combination of the steel blood sword and the counterattack shield is the only working option for him. In fact, in this short time, many strategies had already appeared in Sun Yu's mind to defeat himself. But he was very curious to see the capabilities from the outside. He watched his clone for a while, then he saw that he had turned his counterattack shield into a sword, and also flying. And that was strange. Even though he was the original, he had never used the full sword technique before. And it wasn't that he couldn't use it. It was just that using the modified counterattack shield would require a large amount of spiritual energy to command it. It wasn't possible. And now Sung Yun was seriously wondering why the clone had chosen such an ineffective method that the original did not have in his arsenal. Of course, he had also considered the option of fencing with 2 swords. But is it right to use this technique in a fight where your life is on the line? The guy sincerely did not understand the thought process of his own clone, who was already fully prepared and decided to attack first. Perhaps he thought it was just a training fight and nothing more. But in reality, it was a life and death story. However, now it seemed to him that in terms of pure skills, he was one step behind his clone, even though it seemed almost impossible. Nowadays, in terms of the number of items, it was Sung Yun who was several steps ahead of him, which means that the unbridled will skill he had taken from resilience had been activated. This is probably the explanation for the clone's powers outweighing his own. If things continued like this, the clone would have a good chance of winning, and Sung Yun would be at a big disadvantage, so he decided to immediately think of something to balance the difference between them. He was still amazed at the swordplay ability of Nagano using it. It was also on top of the game, making him an even better sword than his original. The boy noticed that the basis was 2 sword fencing, but he also saw something else that raised his ability to a higher level. In addition, he was sure who his sword belonged to. Not wanting to wait any longer, he rushed forward and attacked him. As he approached him, he examined the sword he was close to. His doubts about the weapon completely left him. Not long ago, he had fought Nagano with his sword was now held by him. It had shocked him, because he couldn't understand where his weapon came from. Even though he had only seen this sword once in his life, he still perfectly remembered everything. The skill of this monster was like that of a deity, and it was impressive. It was scary to stand on the other side and realize that he was against it. In front of Nam Dong-gu, all of the boy's skills seemed to be. However, since Nam Dong-gu's fencing technique was not a skill, he thought he couldn't learn it. It was only at this moment that Sung Yun
What's better than peanut butter?
Who had said that he would soon realize how much
When you combine peanut
perhaps this was the talent that this girl was talking about.
bite-sized
He couldn't know for sure that he got the
M&Ms.
right. It turned out that he needed to face a strong opponent who was not easy. After that, he activated the skill
Take a bite of tropical peanut butter minis.
The system itself had already made clear that
fun.
he was
M&M's
He didn't
peanut
even
butter
care if the voice
minis
had
for all fun.
all of this was both exciting
Buy
and
M&M's
he
peanut
didn't
butter
understand why it
minis.
was happening. Sung Yun had already thought that his clone had suddenly become much stronger and surpassed the capabilities of his originals. And now he wanted to prove that they weren't on the same level, and that he was the one who was stronger. Although looking at his clone, he knew that he was facing him. Sung Yun very hoped to attack the Yogi with his sword, and he shot him and fell to the ground. However, he failed, because the Yogi blocked the attack by sacrificing his arm. It exploded, and the clone managed to escape and hide. Sung Yun had just about died himself when it happened. However, everything he saw made him more determined to defeat his clone. The boy tried not to forget that it was just a copy, and that he was the real clone. All these tricks used by the doppelganger were rigged. So the hunter decided to act in conscious, and the Lord of Steel Blood, as always, watched his test before him. She had always been interested in watching this challenge fight any monster, but this fight was something special. She couldn't watch everything she saw from him. Everything turned out the same as before. She was not in the best position, and now she could not help but contract with the rest of them. And she didn't want to sit and watch it all from the sidelines. The administrator looked around, and then an idea popped into her head. Of course, she didn't know how the tower itself would react to it, but it seemed to her that this plan was just perfect. Now notifications from administrators were temporarily disabled to prevent messages and recommendations from being read. There was nothing wrong with that, because she had just sent her player a cup of tea. It seemed that the guy's fingers were not listening to him at all. For some time, he could not understand what was happening to his body. He also did not know how to regain control of his limbs. It got to the point where Sung Yun started hitting himself in the face. The clone watched with pleasure from the sidelines, laughing, as if one should never let one's guard down during a fight. All the young man could do was scream and try to resist. Sung Yun ordered him to get out of his body and go far away. He had thought that the confrontation with himself in the future, so Sung Yun had seen the worst version of himself, had already ended in the last test. But then what the hell was happening now? He said he was only speeding for the next one. He was on the verge of death, so he saved him. But now there was no gratitude in this guy's eyes. Sung Yun responded instantly, screaming at the top of his lungs, faster to get out of his body forever. But the clone still kept laughing, trying to make him understand the situation. Because it seemed that the guy himself did not understand anything until now. He had trained for so long and spent so much time practicing, but even now, after reaching the top floor of the test tower, he was unable to look at himself objectively to evaluate his own ability. With each word, Sung Yun hated to say his word. It was getting harder to move with each passing second, but he found the strength to move as his desire to end the season was great. He was about to touch his body and something changed, but there was a bar in front of him, and behind him, guy did not give up hope doing that. Seeing the expression on his face, he could not control himself. Sung Yoon realized that it was all crazy, but he couldn't think straight in this situation. He stopped for a moment only after the man spoke. He said that he was helping something. He said that unless he got rid of the habit of relying only on his own skills, he would never be able to do real. That monster just said that. But the guy sat here for the rest of his life and watched everything happen. He wouldn't last long here anyway. Besides, since then, he wanted to take control of his body himself. The clone slowly began to disappear from his eyes and his voice had almost faded. But it seems that he's already begun to understand what was going on and catch the right wave. Earlier, when the other version of him was struggling, Sung Yoon had felt something very clearly, and it was a feeling that never left his home. He called this feeling release, the release of dependence on the skills that his double was talking about. If the clone is capable of this, it means that he himself will be able to do it. So the guy confidently held his weapon, ready to go forward. But there was a problem. The flow of his thoughts was flowing very naturally, and because of this, he was unable to think soberly. He was confident, his racing ego, the heart of which was very deep inside, was waking up again because of this. But now Sung Yoon himself could feel his own thoughts accelerating. The enlightenment happened in one brief moment that seemed to last an eternity. Sung Yoon knew that now he had to give up all his addictions that he had accumulated. Only then would he be able to move forward. And the only thing he needed to do was to release everything and adapt to something completely new and unfamiliar. It was not an easy task, but Sung Yoon confidently took the first steps, freeing his subconscious from completely unnecessary stubbornness. From that moment on, everything had changed like a dream. And the hardest part was over because the young man had already managed to pass the first steps. Now Sung Yoon was able to use defensive skills he had not been doing, who had previously been able to crush him with his own power. Afterwards, he used the highest speed using the wind's mercy along with instant acceleration. As the battle with the clone continued, it became easier and easier for him to figure out what was going on in his head. Now Sung Yoon was looking at the fight not from the point of view of skills, but from the point of view of technique. Because of this, he was slowly beginning to understand how to master these techniques, and even began to understand their principles. In addition, all this was happening at an incredible speed, which was very encouraging. The moment he realized the principles of the technique itself, the young man began to realize how ridiculous it was to use two swords. He saw no point in it for himself. And this clone, instead of fully mastering Namadam Gyup's fencing technique, he just spent time trying to be like him, but it was only outward. And in such a situation, thoughts of distrust and weaken the release of chi energy in the fire, which can cut through absolutely anything in the world. Now Sung Yoon himself was practicing the fencing technique he had seen in Namadam Gyup, so he decided that from now on, he needed to focus on perfecting the fire sword even more, or it was one of the foundations of his techniques. Sung Yoon also learned from what he just seen. During the fight with the clone, he instantly turned his sword into a shield, and managed to avert the crisis that seemed real. Only a second ago, it was a matter of rough and aggressive swordplay, but now he switched to a soft swordplay where his movements were smooth and balanced. The soft sword technique is another fighting technique that Namadam Gyup recently demonstrated. Sung Yoon even wondered how far the clone would go to copy his master's technique. Even though he realized that this was his own personal talent, it was still very annoying. However, as he thought, he wouldn't be able to get an easy victory. In order to win, he would have to risk his own life. Although the young man did not yet fully invest his feelings and finally paid for his victory, he was confident in himself. He noticed that the clone was very surprised, but then the guy repeated the same phrase. He said that if the clone could do it, he would definitely be able to do it. There was no point in delaying any longer. His movements were easy, and his awareness seemed to have changed. However, he noticed another difference between himself and the clone. It turned out that the sword of the clone charged faster than his own. Perhaps it would have been Sung Yoon who he had decided to take it. On the one hand, he knew he was risking his life. He did. He wanted to try anything that had come to mind. Right now, he had a great idea. The fight was only gaining momentum. It would be very interesting to watch this spectacle from the outside. As he saw this clone, the young man continued to realize from the Lord of Steel blood, he said. He watched his doppelganger. This time he noticed that he had parried his attack with a counterattack sword that had been modified with a counterattack shield. If that was the case, Sung Yoon decided to charge his counterattack sword once to fight back, but also to counter the effects of such an attack. He simply breaks down, and if he did it, and if you go by the fact that the clone himself, then right now it's time to finish. The end has come, because the release of the counterattack energy, which is the most powerful energy he had, simply disappeared. Besides, doppelganger might have taken this as a chance, but now Sung Yoon he realized that he himself was incredibly strong, perhaps to the point of madness, but with the realization of his own power, he had no doubt. It seemed like it had started a long time ago. Sooner or later it had to end. Now it's time. The sword of iron blood had been thrown away earlier. Perhaps this was the end of his test. As it turned out, the use of these two components created a real explosion and was incredibly effective. Well, now the opponent, called the best, stood unarmed in front of him. So the boy controlled one last time. But when the warrior was next to him doubled, something even stranger began to happen. It was like some kind of devil. The music was even hard to watch. The guy had no idea what that monster was, and why his tactics and strategies had suddenly changed, completely different from those he used up there. However, fortunately for him, the time for restoring the counterattack shield had come to an end. He just wanted to fight. He didn't want to stop it. It turned out that this monster was completely without a sober mind. Seeing that his chances of winning were slim to none, he decided to go all in. Although Sung Yoon had already hoped for this, it was not the end. He began to use his own body explosions to defend himself or harm his opponent. As strange as it may seem, as a spontaneous and unexpected attack in close combat, this technique can be incredibly effective. But because he had literally lost his common sense, he used these explosions all the time and never stopped. It is because of this that the ash blood will absorb too much stamina and will soon come to naught. Accordingly, when the stamina was at zero, this monster's attacks would stop and it would be completely defenseless. So there was no point and no desire to continue. It was a long test and, as the administrator said, one of the most difficult in the history of the tower, but it was also one of the most instructive. This monster was pathetic and very annoying, but Sung Yoon was still grateful to him for such valuable lessons and the opportunity to look at himself from the outside. Now the shield energy that had been stored for the counterattack was filled to its maximum. It was to be a fatal and decisive blow that would put an end to everything. And with that, the test was successfully completed. Everything happened quickly and clearly. Sung Yoon did what he wanted to do. He almost destroyed his opponent with one punch. As expected, the ashen blood never failed. The young man believed until the very end that this skill would cure even all the side effects that he had suffered during the fight. And if he didn't have a cheap recovery skill like ashen blood in his arsenal, Sung Yoon definitely wouldn't have gone this far. In fact, the young man was already looking forward to climbing the trial tower. He wanted to be so strong that it wouldn't bring him such difficulties. But now the hunter didn't even know if that was possible. Today he had to see the spirit of a completely different self. It had been both instructive and fun, and he had definitely taken away a lot of useful things from it. He could be thankful for the potion he drank earlier. It also helped him not to die here. He also realized that he had learned one new fact. He hadn't realized it until the Lord of Steel blood had sent him that potion. It is a product of a black dragon, which was prepared by processing the bodily fluids of the same dragon. Drinking this drink enhanced mental abilities, immunity, and purified the subconscious. So after all this, Sung Yoon learned that even administrators are subject to sanctions if they interact excessively with their applicants. However, this was not even the most surprising fact. It turned out that he was being watched by a very large number of administrators, which he had only just learned about. Those administrators who had just spoken and then disappeared, had they simply lost interest in him? Maybe they were sending these messages without any purpose at all. He couldn't understand why they all started behaving this way so suddenly, and it began to bother him. It seemed that it would not end well. Of all the people, they had chosen him. Besides, Sung Yun was already the applicant who had signed a contract with one of the tower's administrators. He was curious to know why they were trying so hard to get his attention. Of course, there was an expansion of the system that gave the administrators the opportunity to address the applicant with their own request. It seems that as the system expands in the future, administrators who are not bound by a contract will also be able to benefit from it. But Sung Yun wanted to convey to them that this was a bit wrong in his opinion. They were all at once bombarding him alone with these messages, which seemed to have no end in sight. So the guy suggested doing things a little differently. If they really needed something from him, then let them send some kind of force as support. Then he promised to remember them later, when the system was expanding. However, there was one more small but. Sung Yun added that this lucrative offer was only for the first 3 admins to sign up. In this way, he would be able to maximize his benefits, as he would receive a lot of support, and he would only benefit in the future. Now the hunter was also thinking about how he needed to survive, because this time it turned out that he had not only the same wealth as him, but also skills and strength, which complicated the situation. Now Sung Yun is even more curious to see what he will get when he absorbs the monster's soul. But transformation and accumulation are all words that are like an empty sound to him. It wasn't something he needed. Moreover, he had nothing to do with it, so it was the worst possible reward. He also wanted to understand the divine power that he had managed to extract from the soul of the priest of one of the gates of the Temple of Testing. However, Sung Yun still couldn't figure out how to use it, so he soon gave up on it. But the fact that he could feel and use divine power in the future was very comforting to him. And it also turns out that now he will have to face foreigners at the combined tests, not just candidates from his own country. In general, this is a rather pointless and unnecessary expansion of the system, but it will not hinder him in any way. But if such functions continue to be added, nothing good will come. Sung Yun still wanted to make sure that when the system was expanding, there was only features that would be worthwhile. And besides, the very community he was in now would soon be integrated with other dimensions. And now Sung Yun is one step closer to this goal, at least for the moment. He is the strongest contender on planet Earth. It is said that the test tower has existed for a very long time in dimensions such as Murim, Aries, and Kallian. And the Earth is an extremely small dimension, where just the other day the possibilities for entering the tower were officially registered. And if they do not succeed in increasing their power on Earth in this short period of time, they will soon become a target for other, more powerful universes, as happened on that terrible day. And it doesn't matter when it happens. Right now, he needs that powerful force with which it will be possible to defeat anyone. And since this class is high, the performance seems to be the same, but the explanation was still rather ambiguous. Although the recovery time was up to a whole week, it could not even be called.
Whoa. Okay.
Such functions continue to be added, nothing good will come. Sung Yun still wanted to make sure that when the system was expanding, there was only features that would be worthwhile. And besides, the very community he was in now would soon be integrated with other dimensions. And now it is just a topic that he was the leader of all these tricks used by then it could not even be called.
Okay. Come on. Control Delete. Task Manager. End task. Come on. Maybe it's because this thing is... Yeah, this might be using too much. Inigel is not really that bad. At all. Scroll that down. Oh wait. Yeah. Okay. Steam. Home. Try it again. There, I'll close that too. There we go. Took a little bit for that to launch. Or more.
Long ago, humanity flourished under a highly advanced civilization. However, the war between two opposing civilizations has destroyed everything that humanity had to offer. As the war raged on, highly intelligent mechanical weapons called Titans were created, and the Titans' overwhelming power only served to accelerate the ongoing war. The all-consuming war brought about the invention of the catastrophic weapon, the Black Disaster, and was launched due to a scheme from unknown personnel. As the Black Disaster fell upon every continent, humanity was met with the Great Cataclysm. The black fog that was released from the Black Disaster for centuries consumed countless organisms across the continents to extinction and mutated those that survived into terrifying beasts called Mutarians. After the Great Cataclysm, humanity survived in high mountains or underground shelters where the fog could not reach. Civilization regressed, and resources were scarce. The only option for humanity's future was to rely on technology and resources from a bygone era. The resources could only be gathered from the abandoned lands shrouded in the black fog. Mercenaries were recruited to risk their lives to gather these resources. The hostile Titans and the terrifying Mutarians were not the only threats lurking in the abandoned lands. The mercenaries fought amongst each other to seize limited resources, and the abandoned lands soon became an epicenter of violence. Venture to the abandoned lands and seek resources to ensure the survival of humanity, and return alive.
Okay. Yay. Left shift. Q or E. Scroll. Whatever F is. Oh, F is interact. Tab is spell info. M map. I inventory. Okay. Kind of simple.
Fire in the hole!
of practice! Yeah! Fire in the hole! Powers of practice! That's a good item. Mercenary Ned, terminating exploration. Practice makes perfect. Hours of practice! Fire in the hole! Hours of practice! Adjust my training plan. Hours of practice! One down. careless for a moment. Back to square one. I need to adjust my training plan. Hours of practice! Fire in the hole! Skills have been proven.
Let's uninstall this game too. Uninstall. Home. Download. There we go. Control C. And that one. Let's go. That. There. To
Album I recorded on
that. That. Save. Scroll down. Spotify, please. And try launching that. I want some Spotify or some sort of music. There we go.
I must have been 8 or 9 years old when I first realized that I would never witness the Zephyr's arrival. As a small child, I often imagined myself stepping foot on Eurus D, leaving the ship for the first time in my life. I didn't understand at the time that this was a privilege reserved for my grandchildren. I still remember the conversation I had with my father. He was uncomfortable about the whole thing, and I get it. People don't like talking about their children's mortality. Still, he made me feel better. He reminded me of the importance of our mission for the survival of mankind. We're the only egg in the second basket, he said, or something like that. The basket being Eurus D, a habitable planet just 4 light-years away from Earth. And the egg, that's the roughly 1,300 people aboard the Zephyr. Everyone I'll ever know. I knew that Dad was worried about me. He'd noticed that I'd been sleeping a lot lately and virtually stopped socializing. I wasn't sure at the time what was wrong with me, but I found it harder and harder to get motivated. Seemed to be pretty shaken up, but I didn't understand why this detail was such a big deal to him. And what did the captain know about it?
At Spectrum, we believe every day unlocks unlimited possibilities to bring you closer to the people and places you love. Spectrum transforms your gaming experience into a galaxy of adventures. And with the fastest, most reliable internet, you're always front row to the entertainment you love, no matter where you are. Get Spectrum Internet Premier for $30 per month when bundled plus a 3-year price guarantee. Visit Spectrum.com. Offer subject to change. Based on eligibility requirements, valid for qualified residential customers only. Service not available in all areas. Restrictions apply.
At Central Market, we're here to help you brine and shine this holiday season. Nobody has a bigger or better selection of festive, flavorful fare than our butchers. Take your pick of top-tier turkeys, including Mary's All-Natural, Diestel Organic Heirloom, and Hickory Smoked Greenberg turkeys. Revel in our crown rib roasts or racks of lamb. And make sure you save space for our honey-cured hams, fire-glazed in-store. So if you want to turn every holiday meal into a merry masterpiece, it's got to be Central Market. Shop now at centralmarket.com.
I spray and scrub, but the soap scum in my bathtub is still there.
I spray and scrub, but the burnt sauce on my stovetop sticks around.
Sprays can leave grime behind, but Mr. Clean Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser combines the scrubbing power of an eraser with the cleaning power of Dawn to melt away tough messes on contact.
Just wet, squeeze, and erase.
Stop spraying, start erasing, and clean with more magic than ever with Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.